Welcome to Powerboat Talk, the podcast where we talk everything performance boats with your host, Joe Rode.
Before we get started today, I wanted to give a quick shout out to some companies that are helping to support our fast boat community. This episode is sponsored by West Coast River Outlaws. West Coast River Outlaws is a fast-growing media and marine services company built around supporting people who love fast boats. They create epic content and run an online retail hub. And they've also officially opened their repair and service shop in Arlington, Texas. Whether you need a new boat, help with a project, or action shots on the water, connect with them. You can find West Coast River Outlaws on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at WCRO Media or online at westcoastriveroutlaws.com. This episode is brought to you by Freedom and Fuel clothing brand, made for people who love big horsepower, fuel-burning engines. It doesn't matter if you're into hot rods, off-road, side-by-sides, or of course, fast boats. Freedom and Fuel has a gear to match your passion for power and performance. You can find Freedom and Fuel clothing at all ADBA and NJBA drag boat races at the SoCal Jet Boats trailer or online at freedomandfuel.com. Welcome to Powerboat Talk. I have with me today Cade Wilson, who's the president and owner of Sterling Engines in Milford, Michigan. All right. Cade's relative new owner of the company. So this will be interesting to talk about how that process has been. But Sterling Engines, for people that don't know, I mean, great history in performance engine building. Back in the day, I think it was Sterling, Eichert, and Innovation. I think in the heydays of offshore racing, they were the guys that powered just about everything. So
absolutely,
Sterling's still going strong. So thanks for coming on, Cade.
It's good to be here. It's coming up on 1 year in ownership, so I'm very excited about that. It's really neat to be part of this. Jumped in with both feet. You probably know from reading my background, but I'm very much a motorsports guy. I haven't played on the autosport side of things for most of my life. Boats are new to me, but I'm having a ball, and the people are, the racers are very much the same mentality across autosport to boat racing, and a lot of them are doing both, of course. So, yeah, good people.
So how does this opportunity present itself? How'd you get connected here?
Well, so I was out exploring. So I was with General Motors. I've been doing performance work over there, and then that moved into operational excellence work. It's where my master's is in quality and systems management. I'd been doing that for about a decade, and it was just kind of burning out. And I had a really good buddy of mine who, and I think a lot of people were kind of burning out post-COVID, to be honest. You know, there was a lot of, we don't know where everything's going, what's going on with the industry, what's going on with the economy. And this buddy of mine is a big-time entrepreneur. He owns a lot of home healthcare facilities here in Michigan. He's a young guy, and he just kept poking at me. He's like, man, you are wired to go into business for yourself. You got to get out there and try it. And, I've always been sort of, physically risk. I go for the physical risks, rugby and race cars, and now boat racing, no problem. But financial risk, it was always, I don't want to touch that, and finally convinced me that, hey, let's give it a go. And I started exploring acquisition entrepreneurship. Did this thing called a rollover for business startup for the financial nerds out there. I took my 401k and basically used that to buy a business. And I was looking for cash flowing businesses, and I wasn't real picky about what I was looking at. So I looked at everything from day spas. I looked at, home healthcare. I looked at a couple different restaurants. But I kept coming back to manufacturing, and I ran into Mike Danabell's broker. I was looking at a spa with him actually, and it was nice, high-end spa down in Birmingham, which is, kind of the, sort of one of the ritzier areas here in Detroit. And he goes, man, I've got this one business that just needs a special owner. And we haven't found the right guy. We need an engineer. We need somebody who's a gearhead. And he introduced me to Mike. And initially I was like, I don't want anything to do with the racing business. I've run racing stuff on the side, and I know how fickle it can be. But the more and more I looked into it, it was like, wow, the numbers looked really great. The work looked really fun. And, here I am.
Wow. Wow. Well, again, a great name. At least,
Yeah,
from,
absolutely.
obviously I'm not an offshore racer. I haven't been buying engines from Sterling, but from the media and from everything that's out there, I mean, Sterling's just, I got to imagine the 20 or 30 years of impressions from Sterling engines. It's just, it's a lot of stuff
That's
been out there
awesome.
written good. So
That has been something that has been, really beneficial to step into. You know, um, we've had to modernize some of the product. I mean, we have stuff like these
sure.
900s behind us. This is sort of our classic stuff, but we're, converting a lot of old stuff to fuel injection. We're doing a lot
Mhm.
more pleasure boat, a lot more Mercury stuff. And we picked up the Viper work since I've been here. This one's kind of neat because that one's all set up with MoTeC engine management on it. And it picks up, 30 horsepower just from changing the ECU and wiring harness over to MoTeC. They were underperforming and kind of tuned lean for emissions. Anyway, I will ADD on you. It's been fun. It's been a big name to jump into, and there's a lot of expectations that come along with that. And then, modernizing the product, trying to look for other opportunities, ways to explore the market, make us a relevant force in the industry again has been, I'd say, the biggest challenge. Going along with that, the greatest asset of this place has been my builders. I mean, my team
Mhm.
here has, years and years of experience, and we're bringing some new blood on board right now, some younger guys, and trying to get them, which they're hard to find, but having a place like this that does exciting things makes it a little easier to attract that talent.
I was going to ask, the next thing I was going to ask you, because, I mean, engine building it's a risky business, and,
Yeah,
great engine stuff. Right. It's had a good run the last 15, 20 years, because guys,
absolutely.
as there's more and more money, guys are putting more time and effort into their they're buying suspension, on
Right.
the car side, they're buying everything
Oh
built. So
yeah,
they like buying the motor built too. Right. But the number
absolutely.
one thing about having a successful engine building shop, the scariest thing is how are you going to get people, how are you going to
Right.
get people to know how to do it? So I was going to ask you.
Absolutely.
Sounds like obviously it came with a good staff, which
It
that's
did. Yeah.
invaluable.
Yeah, and yeah, like with any business, turnover, you're going to lose a couple people, and we've managed to replenish those people with people that I think are equally as good. And then, one of those people actually still moonlights with us coming back. He kind of had the offer he couldn't refuse from General
Hmm.
Motors, and he still comes over here and works a
Nice.
second gig. There's been creative ways, and I find that if you just really treat your people well. There's some leadership principles I have from the military, but if know your men and look out for their welfare, being one of them, and that pays in dividends. You find a lot of opportunities that wouldn't otherwise come your way.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I mean it's tough with the COVID set us all up for the
Yeah.
price increase everywhere, right?
Oh,
Manpower
through the
got
roof.
less, and yeah, and then everything got really ludicrous with
I think that's
COVID. But
been one of the hardest challenges is trying to grow a business in a down economy. You see all the prices going up. People don't want to spend. And I don't blame them. I look at what we have to charge for a motor now. And on top of it, all the industry challenges in manufacturing. We have
mhm,
consolidation coming from a lot of the um, private equity firms buying up the mom and pop shops that are going
mhm,
away. And, what they'll typically do, they'll come in, they'll look at the books and they'll decide, well, hey, it seems like, 80% of work is LS work. So they'll only do LS stuff, and all those, custom parts that you used to be able to get relatively readily, they either won't do them at all and you have to find a new supplier, or they won't stock them. So
mhm,
lead times
mhm.
on everything for custom engines has just gone through the roof along with the pricing. So that's all stuff that we have to find answers for our
Yeah.
customers.
As far as how it affects employees too, because now you
Yeah.
had guys, right? We lost a percentage of workforce because there's guys that just never went back to work. And then,
Yep.
when you've got McDonald's, at least out here in California, I mean,
Yeah.
McDonald's pays, $20 an hour or whatever. And, there's a point where like, you're not going to get
Yeah.
anybody doing what you need to do for $20 an hour. Right.
Yeah.
So
My parts washer makes $20 an hour now.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
My facilities guys over that. So yeah, just to keep the lights
yeah.
on. It's not cheap.
You know what? I've never been a business owner, so I've always been the guy working for somebody. I've always managed people, but it just, I mean, I know it's tough, but people would just ask the question of their people. Like most guys, if you pay them fair and you just take
Yeah,
care of them, right?
absolutely.
Give them some, let them have some
Yeah, there's
input in what they're doing and show ownership
yeah,
in what they're doing. Man, they'll freaking stay forever.
absolutely. Yeah, it was one of those other ones. Employ your command in accordance with its capabilities. Find what they're good at. Find what they like doing, and try and put them on that. That goes a long way. The other one we have here is not anything official, but I call it the no dickheads rule. It's just, we're around each other, 8 to 12 hours a day. There's no room for dickheads. So we keep the drama to a minimum. We've had opportunity to hire some very good, very technical people, but their attitudes were crap. So we don't need it. We'll find somebody with a good attitude. So
no, so you're absolutely right. So simple. And I always tell a story. I worked for a guy one time, and he was, our owner hired this guy. He was a really nice guy, but he hired him as a customer service guy. And he told me one day, he goes, "Yeah, I like everything about this job except talking to people." And I know. So he was horrible. But he was such a nice guy and such a hard worker. We moved him around, and we ended up in the end, he was with us for 5-6 years. In the end, we had him literally in the farthest corner of the warehouse, counting and anodizing and polishing. And the guy still made people miserable. And I remember, you know what I mean? Because he was just,
they find a way, don't they?
Yeah. So that was a lesson I learned one time. If a person's got a bad attitude and they're going to go against the dickhead rule, they're always gonna.
Toxicity spreads, man. It's just, you got to weed it out. But fortunately, we don't really have that problem here. I feel like I talk to some other business owners, and they're like, "Man, I can never hire good talent. I can never keep them around." And it's like, we don't have that problem. So, count myself very fortunate that because maybe it's such a highly technical field, because maybe it's really attractive field to be in. I mean, motorsports is sexy. It's a really fun place to play. We get to travel. We get to be around the boats, around the races. It's a lot easier to keep people, good people.
And I don't know, this might sound bad, but I would imagine too, your competitors, not your direct competitors.
sometimes, yeah.
Right. There's a lot of little competitors, but there's a lot of competitors of yours where the bar's pretty low. They probably don't treat their guys well at all. So
I, not to name names, but Roush Racing.
Yeah.
It's not that they've been treating their guys particularly poorly, but they've been struggling with, the way I heard it was they have 6 employees and 2 managers in their engine shop. And so now they have 4 because I hired 2 of them. So it is a struggle. And so, those guys deserve good opportunities. I think that's the biggest challenge for me always is, we need to have growth. We need to be looking for new opportunities. Otherwise my guys don't get a chance to grow and explore what they're capable of. And that's important to me.
Yeah. Well, sounds like you're definitely going in the right direction. I'm sure your military training and probably helped you there a lot.
Oh,
so
90% of it is just giving the problem to my guys and letting them tell me how they want to solve it. And, they come up with creative ideas all the time. They go, "Oh, what about this? What about this? We could do this." And they solve it. And that lets me focus, just like with them, lets me focus on what I'm good at. And, it works for us.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So you get this new sexy business.
Yeah, I get this new sexy business and find out that we got some turnaround to do.
Yeah. So, which I mean, you almost have to expect that, right?
It's I didn't, but I will say
maybe you don't expect it the extent of what it is, but
I really had, it's funny because I had envisioned, with my business mentor, I had envisioned myself being this absentee owner, and I'm going to buy and hold this asset, and then I'm going to grow and try and find other assets. And so I thought, maybe I'll give it, 30 to 50% of my time, but it's a 12 to 16 hour a day job, 6-7 days a week for me right now. And I know that that's putting in time up front, but that said, it was certainly a lot more than, I could have imagined. The funny part is I love it more than anything I've ever done. I mean, I am truly just tickled when I'm here. I'm having a ball. I mean, there's days, there's always days where it's a grind, but I don't get up in the morning and go, "Oh no, I got to go to work." I'm like, get up. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah.
And that's, you can't buy that.
Probably part of the reason you're working 16-hour days, right?
It's true.
You don't make yourself go home.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to summer so I can drag a couple of my kiddos over here because they love to be here too. So yeah.
Now, without talking about maybe the cash flow or whatever, it wasn't quite what you thought. What was something else that was a surprise to you?
This was a surprise to me. I mean, geez, there's been so much learning. I've grown a lot in a year. I guess one of the things that was a bit of a surprise to me is how well the boat industry has picked up on the marketing. Like we've started, I don't know if you're familiar with Alex Hormozy, but he does, kind of business development classes. He was a guy who founded a bunch of gyms, and then he realized that he had a model for evaluating businesses and growing and scaling businesses. And I went and took his class out in Vegas, and it was well worth the money. So big shout out to him. His team is incredible. And one of the things they said to me, I said, man, you're passionate about this stuff. You need to be the face of your business. You need to market. And I went, do that. I don't want to be on Facebook and TikTok, with a phone, pointed at me. Look at me. But they were right. And so the more I talk about how much I love this and what we're doing, the more, we went from, I think there was 30 followers when we started, and we're almost at, we're at like 9,000 now, which just mind-boggling to me. It just blows my mind. And I know that's small by a lot of other influencer standards, but in a small industry like racing, that's huge, and
yes, it is.
And so it tells me that there's a hunger for what we're doing. There's a desire to see what we're capable of doing. And people want to see creative solutions. They want to see big power. They want to see racing. And so they're my people. And so it resonates. So I think that was probably the biggest surprise for me was, wow, this boat thing is way bigger than I could have imagined. It's really fun.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah, it is fun, and it is a small market, small niche market. So 9,000 followers. Yeah, it's
yeah,
if they're true, there's an old thing, 1,000 true fans, right? So if you
right,
got, you probably have 9,000 true fans, because the people outside of this industry, there's a lot of fans that really, it's cool stuff, whether you have a boat or not,
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, yep. And so we want to try to do our best to give them something to be proud of. We want them to, if they get a shirt, we want them, wearing it with pride, going, heck yeah, I support those guys. They do cool stuff, and be like, oh yeah, that's our people.
Yeah. Yep. Now, how did you quantify this in your brain that you get this new business, right? It's crazy business. And you say, okay, I know how to validate things. I'll go ahead and get involved in a race boat and get in a race boat.
So a little bit pure dumb luck, and a little bit, I'd say a plug for working with integrity, right? So the dumb luck, so I'll start with the integrity part. So I get a call out of the blue. Previous owner or previous customer of the business calls me, and he, hey, we've got this boat. It's got Sterlings in it. We're getting ready to do Cowes Torquay, and we put the boat in the water. We ran 20 miles, brand new motors, and we dropped a valve. What the heck are you guys going to do about it? And I'm sitting here going, I don't know who you are. I just took over the business. It'd been like a month. I'm going, I have no idea who you are. And I like slept on it. I was just like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. This is going to sounds really expensive. And it was, but I basically said, ship them back to me and let me evaluate it and let me make a decision. So they came back. We think it was just a material defect, a valve got dropped. We warrantied it. Nobody's warranting race motors. I could have just said, hey, we're a different company. And I said, no, you got our name and I want to do the right thing. So we spent a lot of money and we fixed it. And then we fixed the other motor to make sure it wouldn't do the same thing. Put all new valve train on these two motors. So they go back in the boat. Well, that ended up being Mike Howe's boat. So when he was running the DSK down in Key West, and, if you guys probably seen Jason Mast, my technical guy, who's, rolling around in a wheelchair, and he's just dude's all heart, all grit, loves this industry more than anybody. And we're just rolling around talking to people at Key West. We go, hey, Mike Howe's here. We got to go talk to him, see how those new motors worked. And he just comes up, just loves on us. Hey, man, that was so awesome what you did for us. We recognize you didn't have to do that. So cool you stand behind your stuff. And we get to talking, and he's like, oh, you race cars? Oh, yeah. Well, I've been thinking about getting in a catamaran for next year. Do you want to see if you can drive a race boat? Okay. You ever driven a boat? You ever been in a performance boat?
Wow. I didn't know that part of the story.
A little kid dreaming of going professional racing all my life. Figured, I'm never going to get the chance. And here I am going professional racing in a boat, which I never even imagined existed. So I count myself very, very lucky that I get to do this. But when that opportunity presented itself, obviously, like any other gearhead, I'm just going to, jump in with both feet, and we'll figure it out on the way.
Okay. So first pass, how scared were you?
Not at all, oddly enough. No. I probably should have been. The first time that I got a little uncomfortable in the boat would be the big water at when we had the big water day at St. Pete. And we got out there, and unfortunately our boat broke, but we were just chucking it all over the place. We're still learning setup of the boat. We're still trying to figure out, we broke our power steering pump line, came off, little fitting came off. And so I'm out there during the race going, I can't steer. And, we're still learning to communicate. And he's like, where are you going? I'm like, I don't know. steer. Are you looking at the map? Yeah, but it won't turn. There's a lot of drama in the cockpit when you get two very type A guys who've spent their lives doing, high speed stuff and being successful. And we both have ideas how to do it. So we're still gelling together. He's a lot of fun to be around. We do a lot of neat stuff, but a lot of it is simply, I've got to learn what the heck the boat's going to do. I mean, the driving part, oddly enough, doesn't bother me at all.
Wow.
So, but yeah,
well,
it's all the other stuff.
And, I think that's always a thing with driver and throttle guys, like even guys that know each other, it takes a while. So you guys started like pretty raw, not knowing each other, and barely knew each other. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. You haven't killed each other.
Yeah, we're doing all right with that. And we picked up, we were looking at our times from New Orleans, and granted it was flat water and, boat's a little tired on power. Those motors have 2 seasons on them. We're just trying to make them last until we get parts. And so, we were pretty tickled when Mike got the boat trimmed up nice enough that we got a great start. Obviously we're out in outside lane, so it didn't matter much. But for the start, we felt pretty awesome. And then, to finish the race and look at our lap times. And we had a couple lap times that would actually have put us in the hunt with some of the faster boats if we could just get those competitive. So now we've learned, hey, here's what it feels like. Here's what we need to do to get there. I think we're going to continue to improve every time we get out there, lap after lap. We both have that mentality of incremental improvement.
Yeah. So when you got that first call from him when he broke the motor, you didn't know who Mike Howe was?
I had no idea.
Wow.
I don't really watch much. I'm not a TV guy. I'm not really a YouTube guy. I had mostly stayed off social media before all this. I am, when you say I'm jumping in with both feet, it's literally everything. I'm learning finance. I'm learning business ownership and leadership. I'm learning marketing. I'm learning, all this video content creation stuff. And I'm learning about, kind of who else is out there. What's the space look like? So it's just a full-on immersion via fire hose, drinking from the fire hose method, right?
Well, I mean, that was it had to be a tough decision when you got that call because of the money and not knowing who it was, right? But at the end of the day, that was a good person to make that decision. And for people that don't know, Mike Howe, I think it's him and his wife, I believe. Mike's an entrepreneur that I don't know if he's retired, sold a business, but now him and his wife just do boat stuff on YouTube, and they're big YouTubers.
He's got his hand in 5 businesses right now.
Is it?
I want to say it was 5 businesses.
Yeah.
He had that high-speed tracked vehicle that he sold his company to Textron. I think he still sits on the board there. But yeah, and the funny part was I hadn't even dealt with him directly when all that happened. I was working with, if you know Tim Linden, who's another great guy, and the Patriot Marine guys. So they were the ones who were our direct customer, or at least in terms of doing all the business side of it, paying for the parts. Mike was the owner and driver, so I had no idea. And then it comes up, oh, I'm Mike Howe, and here I am. And
yeah,
I don't know you from anybody, but that's awesome, man, cool. But It's been really fun, and they have a great, like you said, I'm over here so tickled with my 9,000 followers, and they've got 1.5 million.
Yeah,
it's just wild. Yeah,
and his story. What's the guys? The Scrapyard guys in Speed on the Water, I think, did a little video on him, a documentary, and it was really cool. I had no idea, and I watched it, and the whole whatever his vehicles, it was really cool.
It is neat that the Ripsaw tank. So that was in the G.I. Joe movie, and they even. To drive it, they needed somebody to drive it, and The Rock didn't drive it, so they dressed him up like The Rock and painted him, and painted him in blackface, put him in the vehicle. Hollywood can do it.
Right.
But I got to drive it in the G.I. Joe movie. So,
but hey, cool. Man, good decision, and that's going to work out all over the place, right?
It's been a ton of fun. Yeah, we're having a good time, and then of course, that's led to other opportunities. We added, Rob and Casey. So Rob Understall, Casey Boaz with CR Racing this year came over to us.
Okay.
And we just we built them their first set of motors with our program, and obviously, they struggled. They had 3 years of really trying to get to the podium, no podiums, a lot of braking, and they did have a breakdown with us on the first one, and that was due to some valve train stuff. We think fixed it up, but they got a pole position on both their first 2 races and a win on race 2. So I feel like that validates that. Hey, we're Sterling's back, baby.
Yeah.
Having a customer go, hey, I wanted this so bad. And the big change they made was switching to our product, and they're going out and winning. It tells you that they had the boat set up right. They knew what they were doing, throttling and driving the boat. They were just struggling with mechanicals. So, there's a good quote that I like. to give your customer what you want, you got to first give them what they need. And so everybody wants more power, but what they really need to finish races is reliability. They need to be able to run that motor. And these are big motors, we're running, 510 cubic inches at 7,000 RPM, banging them off the limiter in rough conditions for an hour straight. And then you've got practice day and test day, and you're going to do that for a season. So yeah, we got to give them what they need first, and that's reliability.
I was just going to ask you about, so I'm kind of intrigued because I don't know a lot about the Supercat engines. I mean, I do know that it's one of the few engines in offshore, a few classes in offshore where you've got, got some freedom with the engine. You can do what kind of, I mean, obviously it's cubic inch limit, single carburetor, I think. And what other limits are there to it?
Yeah. So like most, so there's what we call builder classes and spec classes. So spec classes are where you have a single engine manufacturer or sealed motors with limited manufacturers that have to certify to a certain standard, right? We can only use these parts. And so Mercury P1, that's a spec class. I joke that that's the fastest version of spec Miata I've ever seen. It's, all the boats are basically, as identical as they can, and then they're allowed setup changes. So it really does focus on setup and driver and throttlement. Then there's builder classes. You get sort of this box to play in, right? You can do this, you can't do that. Here's your rules you can and can't do. And we have to figure out how to get creative. So for us, a Supercat motor at the moment, these have changed over the years, but at the moment it's a 510 cubic inch maximum, carbureted, Holley Dominator type carb. You can run different crank stroke. You can run different piston bore. It's just going to be your piston and bore and your crank are going to be, together helping you decide what your total displacement is. But as long as it comes in underneath 510, you're fine. Then you've got limit to RPM. Right now it's a 7,000 RPM chip limit, right? At one point it was much higher. And so the motors tend to make somewhere, I'd say probably the weakest builders in the class are probably somewhere in the 760 to 780 range, and the strongest builders are in the 840, 850 range. And so there can be quite a disparity between who they choose. The hard part for this, like with any boat motor, is you're just, you're operating at peak torque for long periods of time, massive amounts of drag. So where we excel and we have good competition out there, I have nothing bad to say about, Goodwin or Hermitman. They're awesome guys. They're great builders. They know their stuff. And so you're getting to play against some of the best. And where all of us excel is high endurance, high driveline shock environments. So where are you going to beat on it the most? That's where we'll play.
Yeah. How do they? You said there's a 7,000 RPM chip. How do they? Yeah. So police that.
Well, they were struggling with it in the past. Now what they've gone to is so MoTeC comes over and they put you get a transponder and you get a data collection box on the boat, which is randomly assigned to you, and the MoTeC guys put it on and it's sealed. You have a new reluctor wheel that everybody in the class has to have added before Cocoa Beach, an analog MSD box, and they come by and they provide the chips to you at the race. So here you go. Here's your chips for the weekend. It better come back right. That kind of thing.
Gotcha.
So there's and we've seen already, I think, some good parity coming out of that. We see that the boats are running a lot closer, in my opinion, than what we've seen in years past.
Mm-hmm. The first thing I thought about is you're protecting these guys from themselves too, right?
It's a little bit. Yeah. You don't want to have too much of an arms race. It can escalate really quickly. It's already an expensive sport. There's no need to, make it more painful.
Yeah. Talking to some of the old guys, like Gilbreth and Richie Powers and stuff. And a lot of times those races came down to who was willing to push their stuff harder. Right. Because they could all ring them out, but they knew they weren't going to last if they wrung them out. Right?
Absolutely. And there's still some of that can happen. I mean, we could build, we see it from time to time. You see drag racers decide that they want to step into the boat racing ranks, and they come in and they build a motor that will make amazing power for 5 minutes, and then the hatches blow off, So it's a different kind of application. For us, it means that as we get into, diversifying the product mix, the places that we want to play, where I go, where do we have Autosport that has that kind of, high endurance, high rev driveline shock stuff. And so we're looking at, trophy truck, which we've built for before, sprint cars. We're looking at rock buggies, big methanol, big blocks. They're turning those at 8,000 RPM, banging them off the limiter. They're on and off the throttle. They're on and off the rocks, stuff like that, where you get those big driveline shocks. And then, of course, for us, endurance racing, especially the vintage stuff. I love old Can-Am cars and Formula 5000s, and the vintage muscle car racing, old Trans Am stuff. So those are all places that we've found partners to play with. So we're starting to build some of those things.
Yeah, nice.
It's fun. To me, there's extra sexy stuff out there.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you had your druthers, would you like every Supercat guy? Do you like doing the motors? Do you make money on them? Do they keep you awake at night?
As much as you'd think, considering the price, but we do make money.
I would imagine you probably don't. Right? Plus the risk factor, right?
Absolutely, yes. When stuff blows up, it gets really expensive, and I would say we could build to the nth degree in terms of power, but we usually actually dial it back a little bit for reliability. We do modify for each customer's request, right? So like, an example is, Knucklehead. Knuckle's out there running Super V, and Ed Smith's, kicking butt with it. We learned that Ed's driving style, he wants more torque lower in the power band. And so we sacrifice a little horsepower up top to give him that torque where he needs it and where he's got the boat set up, and it's winning him races. And so it's not just about the final dyno number being better. It's about, can it finish reliably? Can the power come on where you need it with your boat's particular, characteristics?
And then, since you really don't know any better, how do you think it would be different if you weren't the engine builder driving the boat?
I would probably have a lot less mechanical sympathy.
Although you don't really control it, right? So
no, I really don't. It's my throttleman, but I might swat his hand or something.
Yeah.
Take it easy over there. No, I think for all of us, really, once you're in the wheel and the red mist goes and the gloves come off, and you're there to compete, and the mechanicals at that point are really not the thing that's on your mind for the most part. Yeah.
Even though he's the guy paying the bill, do you take care of? Are you more concerned than he is, you think, or how's it go when you get competitive?
So we have a partial sponsorship of the team where we're providing some of the labor for that team, because we, when we took over, of course, MCON had gotten out, WHM had gotten out, Vinny, unfortunately has, smushed his boat, and he's still getting that rebuilt. So it was kind of like we went from supposed to have all these Supercat customers to no Supercat customers. And so for us, getting involved with Mike also gave us the opportunity to sort of be a sponsor and, within our budget, and get back out there to Supercat, let people know we're relevant. And it worked, because it got us, CR came on board, and now they're out there kicking butt. So,
yeah. I mean, so many ways I think it works. Obviously, again, with Mike being partnered with Mike Howe, but learning about the boats, learning about the racing, getting the networking, being at the races, being there for your customers. I mean, it's
Mike's social media reach and marketing machine is incredible. So to just be part of that, like, we don't have to actually win a race for it to be good for the business. It's just, which is great, because we're novices. Let's be honest. We're jumping into something, and we're going against guys who are world champions. So we're tickled that we're out there, at least, not getting lapped. That's where we're at.
Yeah. Well, God, if you're running 2-year-old motors, obviously, when the fresh stuff comes into play, it'll be.
We are waiting pins and needles for new stuff to show up.
Now, when you do the car stuff, to me, I would always think, God, after doing boat stuff, it's like, oh, that's easy. Keep these things together.
It's a very different, I'd say there's a lot of things that transfer over between the skill sets. So I instructed in auto racing for, I guess now it's date myself, about 25 years. The thing that transfers over really well is your butt dyno, that G meter, if you will, when you kind of drive through the seat of your pants, you kind of get it in the groove and let it hold that G and try to feel it. And the physics of how the weight transfers. What doesn't come over well is obviously now it takes two of us to do it, right? I'm not on the wheel and I'm working the throttle and the brakes. Now I've got one input, and I've got to have trust and communication with the guy on my left. And so that's a whole new thing to develop. The other thing that's different is obviously the racing surface is different. When we're up and we're skimming along the top of the waves, it's just like a race car. The water's hard and it operates like a track. When we get a little bit too greedy with it and we start to sink that bow in a little bit, all of a sudden it's like driving a car through the mud. Everything's different and squishy, and the drag is much higher. So you have to be quite a bit more finicky on things. I love both. I'm definitely say I love both. something special about being in an open cockpit car, sliding through, a high speed turn with 13 other cars next to you, inches away. That's pretty freaking awesome. It's not something I intend to give up. But at the same time, ripping along and jumping a wave is pretty freaking sweet too. So it's, it's pretty special.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm just a big kid who's getting to live out some fantasies here.
Yeah.
So.
Friggin' those 16-hour days of it, but I mean, the payoff is worth it, right?
Absolutely.
Nice. Hey, one thing we got chatting about the other day when we talked, and I'm dying to just learn more about is the Mercury QC4Vs. Yeah. Double overhead cam. Everybody probably knows it's actually a Mercury proprietary engine. They make the blocks. It's a Mercury deal and big horsepower. They're ultra durable.
Cool. They're really neat technology. Mercury really outdid themselves with that motor. It hits all those buttons that we talk about, that not only high performance, but high reliability. It's a great motor. I think people want to see us, fight with Mercury more, but the reality is, as an aftermarket guy, I love to see Mercury do well, because that means more stuff that we can rebuild on. And like any big company, they're going to have their accountants pull cost out of things, which means there's spots for us to go in and, so to speak, put it back in, but put the quality back in too. We can do things a little bit better, a little bit faster, a little bit more reliable if we spend to do it. We can do the creative stuff. When we talked, I think, I might have mentioned that people ask me, well, how come you guys aren't Mercury certified? And it's really because I don't want to give up the creative control to do all the fun stuff that we want to do. I would rather have that than to have the extra work in, to be honest. The QC4Vs are neat. So we have a pair in right now that we're going to detune. They were race motors, so we're 1650s, and we're going to detune those up for pleasure boat use, and maybe make a few other changes for reliability. But we've been working with Ian Hawkins, who is or getting geared up to work with Ian Hawkins, talking with him about that. And he was one of the original consultants and engineers on that project. So looking forward to really picking his brain, trying to get smart on these things and building some cool stuff. And yeah.
Now, have you done work on them before, or is the first time?
No, we've done a little bit before. They don't come in often, because obviously Mercury does a pretty good job of keeping that market. But I think part of it is showing that we can and getting the word out. It's one thing that this place really lacked in the past was marketing, and there was. And some of this is just style differences. I think previous owner really liked to play up that war between Mercury and Sterling and play up the competition on the water. And to me, yeah, that's fine when we're on the water, but off the water, this is a business to run, and we need to, we need to do cool things, and they can do cool things, and I can have respect for them. I mean, Sterling does not cast these iron blocks for these big block Chevys, and Sterling does not cast the blocks for, Viper stuff. We're an engine rebuilder. We can build new stuff and do a lot of it, but it's all based on other people's stuff.
Because currently, right, like Mercury, I think, I don't know if it's their warranty or whatever, but they actually, they require that guys come to them for the rebuilds, or I don't know if it's just because nobody else has really ever tried it.
They've limited it. This is the way I understand it, so I could be wrong. But when I talk to some of the guys, like I talked with Myrick down at Performance Boat Center, basically the way I understand it is they won't sell parts for the QC4Vs even to their dealer network. So even if you're set up as a certified Mercury dealer, you can't get the parts to build or sell them. They have to go back to Mercury for service, and Mercury prices them at a price point that they don't seem to really want to rebuild them. It's not what they're, tooled to do. They're kind of big volume, lean manufacturing kind of stuff. They want to sell new motors, which is what they've been very successful at. So, we're hoping to pick up more of that work. We can be very fat from the scraps from Mercury's table, and that I have no shame in that. We're a small business. We're not trying to be them.
No, they do. They leave a lot, which you can understand. Right? They got
bigger fish to fry than one or two QC4V rebuilds a year.
Right. And you're the owner and the president and the marketing guy and the chief cook and bottle washer, right? And they've got
a lot of hats.
25 marketing guys, right? So they've got a lot of overhead, right?
Absolutely.
So. Well, that's cool. And I think you told me too, other than, there's a lot of proprietary parts that are Mercury proprietary stuff, but you said you've got access and you've got people where you can build pretty much anything for them: pistons, cranks, rods, a whole bit.
It's very easy for us to spec out custom pistons, rods, cranks, wrist pins, you name it. We can basically, design it on paper and then go out to our suppliers and say, this is what we want. And they can get it to us. So yeah, we can change compression ratios. We can change, rod lengths. We can do whatever we want to do. And it's still going to be based on that original architecture. It's no different from, all the guys who have modded big block Chevys over the years. There's not a single one of these that's coming through as a stock big block Chevy anymore. And I think that's going to be the direction a lot of the QC4Vs are going to go in the future.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I keep my eyes on it because I'm fascinated just because I've never seen inside one. I'm like, hey, I just love the gearhead. Just like, what's so cool about them? They obviously, they live like crazy.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's still got a lot of things. It's got a lot of modernizations, but it's got a lot of things still in common with what works out of the big block architecture, and it's, but now you're throwing in overhead, valving, and it's pretty cool. It can last better at higher RPM, and it can take a little more of a beating. Push rods like to bend every time they open up. You have to deal with that kind of stuff. So,
yeah. Well, very cool. And then I guess, obviously, Sterling was built on race engines, but you're trying to do more pleasure boat stuff and anything to keep the cash flow and the top line going, right?
Yeah. Well, it's ultimately, at the end of the day, first and foremost, it does have to be a business. Like we want to do the fun stuff, but we have to also think like businessmen. Otherwise, like I said before, the opportunities go away. If you're making money, you have the ability to do cool, creative stuff and expand the state of the art. If you're not making money, all those opportunities just aren't going to materialize. So you've got to be smart first and then look next. The pleasure boat market is big. It's bigger than the race boat market. And so we have to keep our foothold in it. And some of that is doing the old, what's now older Mercury stuff. It's the old stuff that was truly based off the big block Chevy, 500s, 525s, up to 600, 700, and so on. Part of it is some of the new stuff we're doing with, we're trying to continue to do some LS development work. That's not going to be race engines, but those will be great repowers for some 500s and 525s, maybe as much as up to the 900s. Modern stuff, good fuel injection stuff. People want to be able to get in that. They don't want to be adjusting valves. They don't want to be tuning. They want to get in, turn the key, and the boat runs. And so we're modernizing in those ways. And so I see a huge market there on the pleasure boat stuff. We're also looking at, hey, it's probably time for us to get involved with outboards. So we have 450R on the way here that we're going to tear down, do some evaluation, and figure out what we want to do with it. Because, why throw those away when they're a good motor and can be built to be better? So it's, it's not that that's not as fun as racing. I guess in a way it's really not, but it is really fun to the people who are doing it. They're getting out there and they're having their parties and they're going fast on the water and they're bringing their friends. And yeah, we're here for them too.
I was on a recent panel with the 4 of the boat builders out here in California, and everybody obviously sells boats that are just unbelievably priced these days. But they said all 4 of them agreed that, I'm sure you'll feel the same, that at the end of the day, too, the good thing about this, when you hand the guy the keys to that boat and he gets to go take his family for a week vacation, and now he's the hero, it's there's no other feeling like it. So you kind of forget about that.
You're absolutely right. We're really giving people the tools to go create memories. That's really it. And my marketing guy keeps beating on me. Just make sure they know that not just the destination, sell the vacation. And it's like, I don't know how to do that. But it is what we're doing, without, you can go out there with anybody's motor, but if you go out there with a Sterling and you get to hear that sound fire up and you get to take your family out there and other boat owners come over and you pop the hatch and they go, damn, a Sterling, that's cool. You've just given somebody something to be proud about and excited about and put a smile on their face. And that's, it may not be the most impactful thing in the vast, scheme of human history to be like, oh, well, what did you accomplish in your time on the planet? But we made some people smile, and that's pretty freaking cool.
And it's kind of like the guy with the baby. I don't know if they call him that anymore. The baby Mercedes-Benz, right? He's got a Mercedes-Benz, and that guy with his C-Ray or whatever, and he's got a Sterling engine. That's a nice piece. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, that's how we want people to see it and to feel when they have it.
Yeah. Now your Viper motor program, that's Ilmor's stuff, is a Viper
That's
stuff,
Ilmor,
right?
yeah. So
Yeah. Okay.
I have nothing but good things to say about those guys. They've been so good to us. So came over here literally week 2. Nick Reed comes over here, basically brings Chris Pollum over, who's global director of marketing, I think, and they basically come in, sit down, we have a conference call, and they're like, essentially, look, we don't want to service these things anymore, and there's nobody else that we'd trust to service these.
Nice.
And I was, wow, awesome. So we get to
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, darn. So for us, it was, okay, obviously we have to get smart on the platform. Now, the great thing was a couple of my builders who were here used to work at Ilmor and built these things on the line. So we know the platform. We need to know what else we need to do to get it right. And then we go, obviously, from there, we say, okay, well, what do we want to do better? So that's where we've done stuff where we have some companies where we can get some better rods and pistons if we want. We can go to full stock. The big one, like this guy behind me, this is kind of neat because not only does it have the MoTech on it, but we update to the Generation 4 crank. And so you can't get the Gen 3 cranks anymore without, it's about a 10 to 12 month wait from Cali's to get a crank. You can only get the forged crank, and that's a $10,000 part. So for roughly the same money, you get a Gen 4 crank in stock, ready to go. You get a MoTech ECU and updated wiring harness. So now everything is, high speed, low drag kind of stuff. It's more reliable. It's tuned better. You pick up 35 horsepower off of it, just like that. And you get your motor turned around a lot quicker. So it was that kind of creative stuff that we went, how do we solve this problem so the customer gets more for their money than just, okay, it runs just like it did, and I spent $10,000 on a crank. Well, now you're going to spend almost the same money, but you're going to get it now, and you're going to have it better. To me, that's a win. Yeah.
And man, MoTech's almost kind of like that. They've kind of laid that path down for work.
They really have.
Right? Because like 20 years ago, I mean, MoTech was the exotic, came from Australia. There was like one guy in California who could tune them. And now it's like that's all everybody talks about. Like they're just taking everybody by storm now, which is,
I think, as they should. For them. You create a superior product. It really should. And it's not to say there's not other good products out here. I mean, we have a Holly here that we're putting on this blower motor, but depending on what you're trying to get, if you really want the premium, MoTech's kind of where it's at right now. And like you said, they were always, growing up, they were always the exotic. Wow, you got a MoTech. Cool. And here we get to play with them. And I got to say also their service network, we just had Carson out here from MoTech, just visiting for the week, helping us with the twin turbo. It's not like Jeff's not capable, but they're supplying that support. So let's take advantage of it. So he's out here for the week. He's helping us get these, Vipers really dialed in. He's going to remote in with the customer when they put it in the boat so that they can get real data. We've got 200 channels of data on these things. And so we're going to have all this data from in use. We're going to take that and refine the calibrations. You can't get that anywhere else. That's equivalent to like a GM level, program. That's big time. Mm-hmm. So when people are like, well, why MoTech? That's why. The price is there, but the value is even higher.
Mm-hmm. Is it a lot? I mean, it's got to be more money than the Holly system.
I'd say this is the best of the best. So we use the M150 ECUs for any of the 8 and 10 cylinders. You kind of have to. And then we added the extra channels. Usually it comes with 100 channels of data logging. We're going to probably include that in the normal package. We updated to 200 channels of data logging for these because we want that data to refine the product. And it ends up being around $8,000, I want to say, by the time it's all said and done. So that saves you a little bit over just sticking another crank in, a $10,000 crank. But by the time it's all said and done, you're kind of about a wash, but you come away with a better product.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. They're doing the reverse of what I'm trying to do with the auto sport market. They're breaking into marine by saying, hey, we got an awesome product. And I'm going the other direction going, hey, we've got marine. Everybody knows us in marine, but we really need to get out there and get involved with vintage auto sport.
No matter how into the marine stuff or how deep you are, like the automotive numbers are just so much bigger. It's
the margins are usually not as good in automotive, with the exception of if you get into the vintage stuff, which we can. We're one of the last, I'd say, full custom shops in the U.S. where if it's got a piston, we can work on it. But you start looking at things like we're doing. So if you're familiar with RM Motorsports around the corner from us out here. They do IndyCar, they do Can-Am, they do, prototypes. And so we're their supplier now. And so we're getting to play with stuff like old Offenhausers and, you name it. They bring some cool stuff. And so I was talking with we had the Motor City Viper Club came out and visited the shop a couple weekends ago. And one of the guys there goes, "Oh, you guys can do a Formula 5000." I'm like, "I've worked on Formula 5000s. I would love to do that." And so we're probably going to be picking up that kind of work. So it's cool. It's just sort of, operate with integrity, be excited about what you're doing, find a way to make the customer's life better and their product better, and get them back out on the racetrack or the water, and they're going to be happy. And that brings in business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's in the hot rod industry, I know a lot of the really high end builders, and almost every single one of them will tell you that almost every car they do, it's the second or third guy that it's come to, that's been in and out of 2 to 3 shops. And it's these guys, they just want somebody that takes care of it. Right. I mean,
Absolutely. Oh man, it happens to us too. We get motors in from other builders, and I feel awful when they come in. They're like, "Well, he did this." And we had an Acura NSX motor. Poor guy. Well, my friend said he'd cut me a good deal on it, and well, their friend put the connecting rod caps on backwards, and he wrecked your camshaft when he put the camshaft caps on backwards, and it was like, so his head's toast, his camshaft's toast, bottom end's a mess, but this was a fresh build. You can buy it once or you can buy it twice, and you chose to buy it twice. I'm sorry, so choose your builder carefully. Yeah.
But I mean, again, the point is you just take care of people. You make
Absolutely.
You never make as much as you want, but you can make decent margins. You got to put food on everybody's table, and but
that's exactly it. Yeah, I'm not looking to gouge anybody. I'm looking to make sure that we get paid fairly. But we want people to walk away going, "Wow, I got more than I paid for." That's the goal, right? It might be expensive, but I want them to walk away going, "Man, I got more than I paid for." Because that's when you tell your friends, right? There's an old Edwards Deming quote. He says, "Customer satisfaction is bull," and they're like, "What do you mean, customer? We all measure customer satisfaction. What are you talking about?" He says, "When's the last time you told someone you got exactly what you paid for?" And they look around like, "Yeah, no, I know." Either tell them you got screwed, or you tell them, I got amazing value for my money. And so my goal is, if somebody feels like they got screwed, they need to talk to us. We need to work it out, because I want them walking away going, "Man, that place was awesome. I got more than I paid for, and this boat is wicked." That's what I want.
Yeah. It's the right way to do it. It's absolutely the right way to do it.
Now, Joe, you said you're out in California. You're Inland Empire area, if I recall.
Inland Empire, about 45 miles east of LA. Yeah.
You ever go out to the Pomona swap meet?
Yeah, I haven't been for years, but I've been there plenty of times. Yeah, I'm 15 minutes away from Pomona. Yeah, I grew up ride my bike around Pomona and the lake all the time, and
we used to go out all the time. Yeah. That's a good scene.
My dad's an old drag racer. In fact, he still does. He volunteers with NHRA. He goes and parks Cackle cars at the Winter Nationals and March meet and all that. Can't get him to slow down, but that's kind of how. Cool. That's where it all started out here. And boat builders, we got a ton of boat builders out here. A lot of the small guys, Eliminator and DCB, and a lot of those guys.
Oh yeah, very cool. Yeah, I want to get to. Everybody keeps telling me you got to meet the guys over at DCB. You got to go meet Justin Wagner over at the. It's all these different boat builders that I'd like to meet. See you, Jason. My guy's checking out here. I'm continuing to meet other movers and shakers in the industry. By and large, I find that most of them are pretty down to earth guys. Same mentality. Hey, I want to build a good business doing something fun and that I love and other people love too. And that's fun. That's what makes us good. Yeah. I lived in California for a while. I had gotten out of the Navy, moved out that way. And I remember when I first got out to, I remember my first experience in LA, and I'm a country kid. So I come down over that hill, and then it's down the 10 at, evening, and here's all this sprawl of light out in front of me like a giant anthill, and I was kind of felt sick to my stomach at first, but I did eventually adapt to LA, and it was a fun place to live, definitely a motorsports mecca. But I was thinking about Iski Cams, Ed Iskandarian passed away here recently, I remember it was funny, of all the places that I was like, where do you want to see in LA the most? I was like, I want to see the home of Iski Cams. And I go into this little, little brick building, and you can still kind of see the faded logo on the wall where the sign used to be. And I just remember being so jazzed that, that's Iski. That's their shop. That's how it started. So yeah, that was LA, it's a shame what's happened to LA with the car culture. They've pushed so much of it out, but post World War II, that was the place to be if you were in hot rods. Yeah.
It's still there. I mean, it's still, some of the the smog wall, when they move the smog law, so it's like 75 and under. So you have some room to play. It's really when you get into the smog stuff, it's pretty healthy. There's a website, SoCal Car Culture. And if you look, and there's literally, I ride road bikes, and when I go out on if I ride with a group of guys, but when I go out by myself, I always look at SoCal Car Culture to see where the car show is, because that'll be part of my path. I'll just spin through the car show, right? And I mean, there'll be 15, 20 car shows out here every single Saturday and Sunday. It's pretty healthy that way.
It is a good scene. It's just as far as the manufacturing base, boy, it seems like they've tried to litigate it away or legislate it away is the word I'm looking for. But people are keeping it alive in spite of it, and it's just good to see. It
might be illegal out here to have like a MoTech in your possession.
it might be, not carb approved.
I don't keep that close, but I know they pop a diesel guy once in a while. Man, they'll nail those guys. They'll have $200,000-$300,000 fines for taking off whatever the diesel crap is, or the catalytic converters or whatever. So
usually that's pretty easy to spot, but I feel bad for those guys, but don't get me wrong, like I'm not like down with, like, I'm not really trying to be like, let's be awful for the environment, but at the same time, it's like, let's have some reasonable ability to modify and do cool stuff with our tools.
Right. And at the grand scheme of things, like the amount that comes out of a hot rod or a boat, the amount that you use it compared to a guy that or even compared to a freaking factory, right?
Exactly. Yeah. No, absolutely true. Yeah.
So you're talking about your car stuff. So how'd you get started? When did you start getting into?
So I really wanted.
Like, where'd you grow up?
I grew up. I grew up kind of all over the Southwest. I like to joke I'm like Johnny Cash. I've been everywhere, man. But I grew up all through the Southwest. I was born in Arizona, raised there in New Mexico and Texas. Joined the Navy after high school in Texas. So Round Rock, just north of Austin, was my high school hometown. Home of record, as the military likes to say. And then they kind of shipped me all over. So I've lived in a bunch of other states. I started out, did a little bit of time Army enlisted, and then I ended up at the Naval Academy and then a naval officer after that. And, so I've seen mostly East Coast tour duty. So Virginia, saw a little bit of, everything from Pascagoula, Mississippi and Pensacola, Florida, all the way up to Norfolk, Virginia, and, thereabouts. So it was fun. I got to see a lot of neat things, and I deployed in support of OIF 2, the second Gulf, or whatever we're calling it now. And anyway, I got out and tore up my ankle. And about just before I tore up my ankle and got out in 2005, I had started goofing off with race cars. But I found I went from mud bogs. I had a Jeep CJ7 was my first project. And so those buddies in Pensacola got me talked into doing mud bogs. And mud bogs became mud drags. And that became drag racing. And then that became... I bought an 01 Cobra. I bought an 01 Cobra on an ensign salary. I could barely afford the thing. I was living in a shack so I could make my car payment and go in drag racing. And then a drunk driver went through an intersection and smashed my new car. And I went, that was probably, it sucked. I was on my roof. I got out of the car and I was okay. I was thinking back. Sorry.
Good flashbacks, right?
Yeah, it's a good flashback. And I'm thinking back and I'm like, this was probably a good thing because I really couldn't afford that car. A buddy of mine's like, you got to get something to get to work in. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I got somebody selling a Miata. And I'm like, a Miata? That's a chick car. I'm not getting a Miata. And he's like, no, it's cheap. You got to get this Miata. So I get this Miata. And I'm like, what do I do with this thing? And it turns out it's fun to drive. It's got no power. It's gutless, but it's really fun to go around corners. And so I started autocrossing this thing. I did a handful of autocrosses before a buddy of mine talked me into a track day. And it wasn't long after that I basically had ripped all the interior out of the car, stuck a cage in it, was trying to figure out how to go spec Miata racing. And it was just kind of one of these, progressions of hits of the drug, right? You get the motorsports drug and you just get another hit, and you're looking for more. So the cool thing to me about road racing was, unlike drag racing, I spent a lot more time on the track. And so compared to how much wrenching time, and so I got hooked. Ended up getting out of the Navy, moving to California. I, used some of my get out of the Navy money to buy a car, because obviously. So I bought a Lotus Elise, which I'm 6 foot, almost 6'3". I'm just under 6'3". and I'm 240 pounds, and I've been about that weight for most of my life. So you imagine me in Miatas and Lotuses, and, it's, the guys call me Grizzly at the track. They're like, you look like a bear on a bicycle. so, so I love these little bitty sports cars that handle. So anyways, I end up taking that out to California and really getting involved in that scene to the point of like sleeping in my truck at the track, instructing during the day. I was on a 410 schedule with my first job out of the Navy was ops and logistics for Target. And I liked that I was on second shift on 410s because that meant I had 3 days off on the weekends to go race cars or go, be on snowboards. And for a young single guy, that was perfect. But I didn't know anybody when I moved out there, and I didn't know anybody that raced cars. And my parents are very pragmatic people who, car racing is this extravagant hobby. Why would you do that? And you're wasting your time and your money. I think my dad kind of gets it, but my mom never did. Right. And sorry, like I said, all ADD on you. Some fun memories there, but yeah, I ended up instructing, and that's when I started getting fast. And that's when I learned that if you really want to be good at something, you have to be able to explain it to others. You have to be able to teach it. And
good point.
And man, it just got in the blood. And so here I am. And now, 25 years later, that's just taken me everywhere in life. Autosport has, motorsport, I'd say now with boats too, motorsport has taken me everywhere in life. It's just that follow your passion and see what doors open. And so I ended up, I worked in aerospace, but I kept racing cars, kept instructing. And then when I came out here, GM said, hey, we want to put car guys back in the car business. And, they brought me out here. I got to be doing systems integration work. I got to do calibration on Corvette, Camaro, some pickup truck stuff. I ended up being the guy who started teaching the limit handling course for the young engineers. So I revamped all the limit handling for level 3, 4
nice.
driving. So which was basically, big autocross. It was like doing a 2.5 minute autocross course or a 4-minute autocross course. So you're teaching them the principles of limit handling, how to slide a car around, how to transfer weight. And so wouldn't have had any of those opportunities if it hadn't been for getting into autosport. And then of course, kept following it, and here I am. And like we talked about, it was like, oh, I could not get that fish hook out of my mouth when it was, hey, you could be involved with this company that's building motors for race boats, and I'm just, here we go, hook in my mouth all the way.
Right. So, well, you're definitely overtrained compared to compared to your average motorhead. So that's good.
It's been self-taught largely, listening to smart people with grayer beards than mine. Now mine's gray too, but if they got a grayer beard than mine, they're probably worth listening to. They might know something. Right.
So I want to ask though. So you got out of the Army and then you went to the Naval Academy?
So it's yes, at the same time, sort of. So I did. At 17, I joined the Army, and I was signed up and. Kind of got screwed by the recruiter. I was supposed to be involved with a long-range reconnaissance platoon, what they call LRP unit, as infantry. And I get to my military incidents processing station in San Antonio, and they're like, well, that doesn't exist anymore. That unit folded and blah, blah, blah. Well, do you have any other combat arms roles? Well, the only thing we have available is combat engineer. And I'm like, combat engineer, that sounds stupid. What does that do? And well, it's like infantry, but you get to play with explosives and build bridges and pull landmines out of the ground. Okay, cool. So ended up going to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and training for that. And so I was on the split option program. Then they put me with a guard unit for the last year of my high school. And then when I graduated that, I was active duty stuff. But I was applying to West Point and Annapolis at the same time. And West Point said no, and Annapolis said yes. And I had a really good commanding officer, and he signed my papers to release me from my obligation to the Army and be indoctrinated to the Naval Academy. So I basically kind of got to jump ship from one and go to the other, which is rather rare.
Yeah,
I was pretty fortunate.
I've never heard of that. I've had a couple people who their kids have gone through the Naval Academy. So I mean, actually did the tour with one of my sons too, who said there's no freaking, he said there's no freaking way. Right. Yeah. But it's amazing. Just, I always say, like, if you have that kind of kid that can do that, because it takes a special kid, it's a different experience.
You have to be a little bit of an idiot is what I think.
Yeah. But
I'm hoping one of my boys is enough of an idiot to give it a try, but we used to joke that it's a great place to be from. We had a lot of other jokes. I think at the time it was $180,000 education shoved up your ass a nickel at a time. does teach you a lot. It was also a very weird, very hard place to be. Yeah, I think so. We had a comedian, I forget who, come and visit and talk to us for, Brigade Entertainment one time. And he goes, you guys call this an academy? This is not an academy. This is a yelling place. And we're all like, yeah, he gets it. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, again, I do know it takes a special person to get through that. So good for you. So
yeah, it's just a thing. So, thanks, though.
So what does 5 years from now, what does success look like for you in Sterling?
That's a great question. So in my mind, first we return to profitability. That's the first step, right? We have to continue, and we're getting there. We're very close. We got to continue to get more cool projects in. We're looking for people who have that excitement like we do to say, let's do something weird and wild and different. We're looking for the guy who says, hey, I just want more reliability than stock. It's the whole spectrum. But we got to keep the pipeline filled, because that gives us the opportunity to do the other things. If we're successful at that, you'll see us, selling outboard rebuilds. You'll see us selling LS packages. We have 3 separate levels of LS package, basically ready to go and start marketing here anytime now as repower units for marine applications. We have, and you'll see us modernizing a lot of the old big block based stuff. So continuing to do more of these fuel injected stuff, continue to add MoTeC to things, and continuing to look for ways we can improve the QC4V line. And so if we're successful at all that, this place will be, instead of 12 people, it'll be 30 people in 5 years. And I would like to take the money we make from that and go up the value chain. I'd like to solve some of the problems that we have right now in manufacturing industry, where there is some attention on American manufacturing again. We know we make quality product. We know we want young people back in this industry. And for us, that means a little bit of finding the right fit for what businesses support us. So like, for example, wristbands. Wristbands are high lead time. Rods, high lead time. Pistons, high lead time. Cranks, high lead time. Blocks, single source suppliers in a lot of cases. So some of those, where can we find a business that's at the right price point that we could invest and buy another one, solve the problem for ourselves with quality and lead time, and then sell to others who are struggling with the same thing. And that's, to me, that's what it'll look like. And doing it with a bit of a counterculture mentality that kind of puts the middle finger up to some of the Lean Six Sigma stuff that has really killed a lot of businesses, right? We're going to be looking for the place where we can add value and not be just in time delivery. We want to be like, hey, we want to actually carry product. We want to, have a little, the saying is whales have fat for a reason, right? You can lean yourself out to the point of starvation. And a lot of companies, I think, have done that. So we want to look for where's the healthy fat and how do we find those businesses that need a little bit of that added. And we're one of them here. If we do it successfully, we will have more inventory. We will have shorter turn times. We'll be able to do things that we need to do to be successful. So I think we go up the value chain, and you guys will go, oh, Cade's actually owns a race boat now, something like that. I don't know. They say that the best boat is the one your friend owns. So.
Right.
So, but I'll keep racing cars and playing with boats.
Yeah. Sounds like a good path, and I don't doubt that you're going to get there. So
thanks.
Nice to hear.
We need a little luck, a lot of love from our customers. I have the best team, so I'm not worried about that. I want to keep giving them the best opportunities. But yeah, it'll all come together one way or another.
Yeah. Well, again, you go in the right direction. So
and stuff like you're doing here, bringing us in and letting us tell our story, man. I can't thank you enough for that. Speedboats.
Thank you, man.
Awesome.
I love hearing it. Yeah.
You guys welcomed Ray, welcomed me in. You guys with Powerboat Talk, being able to just say, hey, we want to know. That's awesome. It's been such a good industry to be a part of. Good people. So thank you for that.
Good. Yeah, good to hear. So I just want to clarify. So it's Sterling Engines. There is actually, through years of, I guess at some point the company was bought and split and sold. There's another Sterling Performance out there. But that's not Cade.
That's not us.
Sterling Engines, and like Cade said, he's very, very active on social media. Sterling Engines on Facebook and Instagram. Did you say TikTok too?
I was just told today by my marketing guys that you better learn TikTok, and I went, I don't know if I'm allowed to with my security clearance, and no, you better figure it out. You got to get on TikTok. Our market's on there. No, okay, so here we go.
So get online and follow him, and he's doing some fun stuff with the Supercat. So it's fun watching you guys at the races and doing that stuff too. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So thanks again for coming on. I appreciate it.
I'm so pleased that you had me, Joe. Thanks for this. Appreciate it.
All right, man. Take care, and we will keep our eyes on you and see you around.
Sounds good. Let me know anything I can do to help you guys too. This has been wonderful.
All right. Appreciate it.
Right. Yep. Take care.
Thank you for listening to Powerboat Talk. If you like what you've heard, please head over to Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star review. For more Powerboat Talk, follow us on Facebook or Instagram, or visit our website at powerboattalk.com.